Hello. Today we're going to look at packing an RA-360 main in a pro packing, pro as a proper ram air orientation technique, equipped with BOC throw-out pilot chute. Before we begin the packing proper, we want to make sure that we have a proper layout of the canopy and a few details are set correctly. We're starting with checking the number 6 links on the risers. There's no thread exposed and they're properly tied. Then we're checking that the reserve static line is connected correctly to the riser. The main ripcord is removed because we're going to pack it with a BOC pilot chute on a bottom of a container. Then we're checking that the deployment brakes are set correctly and the excess line stowed. I can show how to do that on one side. It's essentially, after removing the twists from the control line, pulling the cat eye below the retaining ring with the control line inboard and the excess outboard. Insert the tongue into the cat eye, place the tongue into the pocket, the opposite side also. Open the stowing space for the control line access, fold it in place, make the Velcro, and snap the toggle onto the riser. Now we're calling for the rigger check that involves ensuring that the 3 ring release is assembled correctly. As we just checked, the R-cell is connected. The links are tightened without showing any sign of the barrel. The toggles are properly fastened and connected to the risers. And the deployment brakes are set. As part of hanging the canopy from the hook, we're going to perform the 6-line check that's part of the first rigger check. We pick up the risers and isolate the control lines from the rear risers, from the main risers. We walk everything up to the canopy, and each of those go straight into their dedicated grommet. So now we see that the control lines are free through the grommets and clear. And then we can identify the slider stops on one side and the slider stops on the other side. And we can walk them back down to the canopy. They will go directly to the outside of the link. Outside, 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 and outside. 6-line check performed. I'm going to hang the canopy by the hook and tie the risers together. After rigger check number 1, we proceed to flick the canopy. We identify the center by the red tab and collect 4 additional cells on each side. We give it a shake. And now we identify the 10 line attachment points in the front. They're color coordinated, different from the ones on the B lines. I lift along the lines plane, the line, so that I can make a fold between the A and the B lines. I do the same thing on the opposite side, and I create this fold. With the nose, I gently push it toward the center. As part of the collecting the lines, I also applied some tension to pick up this lag that you see down here on the lines. I will move to the back of the canopy, and as I do that, I follow the stabilizer, flicking it, including the tail. I repeat on the opposite side. From the A line, I follow the tape. I flake it, pulling it out, including the tail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Now, I open the center and identify the lowest line attachment points. They are the D lines. They are black in this canopy. Applying pressure so that I can pick up the slack, I collect all 4 LFEs. Now I lift them on the same plane as the lines and identify the C lines, where I proceed to gently pull down so that I can eliminate the slack. I make the fold, and now I hang on to both D's and C lines. I lift them away. I apply the fold and apply some pressure to pick up the slack. I move on the opposite side and I repeat the process. 1, 2, 3, 4 D lines. I lift them. 1, 2, 3, 4 C lines. Apply the fold. Disconnect the magnets so I can lift C's and D's together away so I can make a fold between B's and C's. At this point, I collect all the 8 D lines and insert them inside the magnets made in them. I proceed to quarter the slider. I flake it. And if I do have some line that has some slack, I identify its location by gently pulling so I can see where it is, and I can pull back down so that I create a tension that unifies all the lines. Now I'm calling for the rigor check number 2 that involves verifying that the canopy is properly flaked. The end cells are identified and I can look at them visually. I can verify visually by checking the S-folds. The leading edge is cleared. The suspension lines are taut. There's no slack. The D lines are captured inside the magnets, and the slider is quartered. Now we can proceed to cocoon the canopy and place it on the floor. I take the control lines, fabric, and fold it toward the center. I identify the center of the tail. I move it above the highest grommet, and I pull the tail around the front. Here, is where I'm going to start keeping a slight amount of pressure, rolling the tail. While I do this, I want to ensure that I don't pinch any fabric and roll it into the tail. The greater amount of rolls here, the least amount of managing of the cloth when I put it on the floor later. To dismount the canopy from the hook, I simply lift it, and to preserve the integrity of the pack job, I simply lift the canopy up, and when I lower it, this bit I push out. I remove deployment bag and bridle from under it. Ensure that the lines are nice and straight, and proceed to push the air out from the canopy. Instead of doing this type of motion that's going to spread the lines outside, I rather push toward the center. So I accomplish getting air out, and I just use the extra bit of cloth to tuck it under. I move along the canopy with my knees and press down to remove excess air. At this point, I'm making the S-fold. That's going to be roughly the same width, twice the width of the canopy. So I end up with slightly less than the width of the canopy. The next fold, it's not targeted to end up lined up with this position, but rather with the opposite end lined up with this, which means that when I'm folding it back, it's going to exceed in length the position of the first fold. As you can see, I line up the second fold top to the same position as the first fold, while on the bottom I'm exceeding by a few inches the other side. I prepare the deployment bag. And go to place it right where I want the pack job to be. One at a time, I insert the corners, making use of the dog ears on the bag. Now, you can see how the first fold is in line with the mouth of the D-bag, and the axis of the second fold is sticking out. This is where we want to be. At this point, we are wedging a line at the mouth of the bag and rolling the canopy in so that it's inserted to below the mouth of the bag. And now we're going to close the bag. By bringing the elastic to the grommet, not stretching it, and make the first fold. The first stow, about a couple of inches long, single. All of the stows that go through grommets are single. If the elastic feels that is a little weak, don't double it up, replace it with a new one. After the first 5 single stows, we go to the farthest on the opposite side rubber band and begin with two stows. Not too long, about 1.5 inches. The next rigor check, number 3, is to verify that the locking stows are in a correct sequence and stowed in a single wrap through the grommets, and verify that the first regular stow is on a lower left and double wrapped. Now we proceed with completing the stowing of the suspension lines. We're leaving about 12 to 16 inches and remove the riser tie. Rigor check number 4 is about checking that the rubber bands are doubled up on the D-bag. The pull-up cord is removed from the risers, and the risers are routed along the reserve tray, and the excess lines are stowed correctly in the main tray. Instead of fully sitting the D-bag, I only put it half away and then lift the bag so I can rotate that in place and then finish it off by applying pressure on the corners. pull-up cord. Bottom to top. To the left. I need to prep this so it comes off. Rigger check number 5 verifies that the container flaps are in proper closing sequence, which is bottom, top, left, and right. Verify that the main bridle curve pin is positioned correctly through the main closing loop. The pull-up cord is removed. The bridle is routed under flap number 4, and the riser covers are mated. Also that the AAD is functioning properly. Rigger check number 6 verifies that the pilot sheet is folded and stowed in the bottom of a container pocket with the handle exposed. Also that all the packing aids are removed and accounted for, and the logbook is filled out properly. And this concludes the pro-packing of the main RA canopy with the bottom of a container pilot chute throughout deployment method.